Hello, Michael here with the first in a series of tutorials in which I'm going to be showing how to render specific objects and things that you might find in the world using Renderman and lighting them as well. Today we're going to be looking at doing a glass of whiskey, one of my favorite liquids. And as you can see, I've already got a small scene set up here. I don't have any lights in yet. I've just got a surface with the whiskey, and I've got a separate piece of geometry for the liquid inside. And I just I just modeled this in ZBrush very quickly just before starting this video. So what we want to do to start off is assign some materials to our object. So let's grab our whiskey glass first, and let's assign the Pixar surface shader to it. Then let's have a look at our hypershade editor. So we're going to want to make this glass, obviously, because it's a whiskey glass. So let's turn the gain down to nothing. Let's turn the refraction gain up and the reflection gain all the way up, and that's going to give us some pretty convincing glass. The next thing let's have a look at is this table. So Renderman comes with a couple of good presets which are quite useful. Like this oak wood preset. So I'm just going to import and assign that to the table to get us going. And then finally, the liquid in the whiskey glass. So you want to do this. Liquid essentially works the same as glass. So we're going to make this appear as though it is glass as well. And you won't be able to tell in the render. Let's rename this while we're at it as well. Let's call it liquid. This one here is the glass. And yeah, that can stay as the default name, that's fine. So the liquid, we need to do the same. We need to turn the gain all the way down and the refraction gain all the way up. The refraction color, we need to change to be a whiskey type color, which is a deep amber color, if you've ever seen it. So it's going to be somewhere around there. And I'm sort of going to push this a bit further than you probably would expect the color to be. If you look in the sample preview, it's not far off what I think whiskey would look like. I'm actually using some reference while I'm doing this. I have a whiskey glass that looks exactly like this, or pretty much exactly like this, which I'm using for my reference. So if you're going to do something similar, I would recommend you use reference as well. So I don't have any lights in the scene, but if I do an IPR, we'll be able to get a quick preview of what the scene looks like overall. So let's do that now. Okay, so the realism is there, definitely. Our glass looks realistic, it's refracting light realistically, and the whiskey seems to be about the right color, and as you can see, it's transmitting some light through it as well, just with this boring old directional light that comes in by default. But we want to light the scene so it's a bit more interesting. We want to make it look as though we're trying to sell this whiskey. So let's sort of think about this as if it was a product shot. So we want to set this up as though we're trying to sell it. So let's put in some disc lights to start. So the idea with this first light, which is going to be our key light, is that I want it to be a nice warm color because I want to invoke the feeling of sort of hominess rather, and a good warm light is a way to do that. It sort of makes you think of fireplaces and cold nights and things like that, and that's definitely what you want to be thinking about with whiskey. And also the advantage of using this dome light, this disc light, is that it will project a circle sort of highlight around our whiskey glass and basically frame it. So that's going to be useful. Let's change the intensity to be 10 just as to start, and let's also put in a sort of like, it's going to be sort of like a rim light, I guess. This light over here is going to be basically a cool light that we can use to illuminate our shadows a little bit, as well as get some extra reflections on the glass. And this is going to be a low intensity light, and it's also going to be a cool color. So somewhere around there will probably be okay. And thinking compositionally as I set this camera up, basically what I'm trying to do is put the camera in a position as though it was someone like approaching the glass and looking at it. So it's sort of like a very appealing point of perspective. It's not so much like a product shot where you have something like this sort of off to the side like that, and then you'd probably have some text or something there. This is more like a beauty shot where you're trying to invite someone to drink the whiskey. This is like a invitation, and then you'd have some blurb from some copywriter at this point on the left hand side, and they'd be selling it to you with words, but we're just selling it with an image. So let's have a look at see what this does. So straight away you can see that this is a lot more appealing compared to this boring old composition. So the problem with this one, there was basically no composition. We just had a glass of whiskey floating around in the center of the view space. There was no real lighting on it, and obviously this boring wood panel didn't look very exciting either. Now we've got this, and look at the way that this shadow creates a frame, sort of like a vignette around our whiskey glass. But one thing I'd point out that would be a critique is this side of the silhouette of the whiskey glass is sort of disappearing a little bit. So I want to make sure that this light on the top right hand side here is catching this rim. And when I was modeling this, I made sure specifically to give this a rim so it would catch the highlight. And I'll show you that now. So I'll just stop that IPR. And I'm going to save that camera as well. This is going to be shot too. Okay, so yeah, if you look at the topology on this, you can see I've created a rim around the edge of the glass, and that's just going to catch that light, as I said. So this light here, the intensity is good. I might just make it a bit bigger. And this is the point when you're sort of trying to just fiddle with your shots and your lighting, because you've basically got the composition came out actually pretty much straight away. That was a bit lucky. Normally I have to move the camera around a little bit more than that to get it right, but you sort of get the idea with what I was going for straight away. This timber floor might be a bit of an issue though, because you can see this line here is intersecting our glass, and that isn't really that good. I don't want that. I like these horizontal lines heading towards the whiskey glass, but this vertical line I could do without. So I'm just going to shift that all down a touch in the viewpoint. It doesn't really matter where exactly it lands, but as long as it's close enough. And as you can see, I've still got it there, so I should probably move it in the other direction. And that white light now is actually a bit too strong because I increased the size. It actually increased its intensity at the same time. So I'm going to move that back that way. I'm going to grab that light again. And let's change the intensity to be something like 0.5. You can see it's starting to catch the rim there. I might just see a good way to aim your lights is if you select the light and then you go to panels, where is it, look through selected, and then I can sort of get this sort of crosshair, semi-crosshair aimed across the middle of the circle, and hopefully that should be enough to reflect up at the camera. And also, while I think about it, I might turn shadows off on this, so I don't get a cast shadow going across the other side. And let's do a quick IPR of that and see how that looks. And maybe go back to our bookmark. Alright, so the light's not quite perfect. The intensity is good though. However, we're not getting that full rim effect, and I think that's just the relative position of the camera overall. But we are getting a good look at the whiskey in the glass. We're getting some of that light transmitted through. And another thing I'd point out now is that I have got, in sampling, I've got caustics enabled. If you don't have that enabled, you won't get that light being transmitted through the surface there. And I'm going to push this to be a little bit more purple, this light, because I think it's a bit too... I want it to complement that orangey color, so I don't want it to be too cold. I'm just going to desaturate it a touch. So that looks pretty good now. The table's in a good spot. This panel here is now framing our object a little bit more. I could probably do to have the whole thing shifted just a touch. This is one of the problems with Renderman, is that you can't update geometry while you're rendering, but that's fine. A GPU renderer like Redshift is able to. There we go, it's a bit better. Alright, and one final thing that I could do, which I've forgotten to do, is this light on the left, our key light, is actually meant to be a warm light. I forgot to actually add that warm color in, so I'm going to grab something that's fairly orange and fairly saturated. It doesn't really matter too much about the saturation as long as I got the value correct. And you can see that sort of gives us an overall improvement. If you compare that to that, this is a lot more inviting. And then starting at that point, I'd probably reduce the saturation just a touch, maybe pull it around to be a bit yellower, because I don't want it to conflict too much with the color of our actual whiskey, which is a very amber color. Yeah, so if you compare these two now, this is a lot more effective. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think that looks pretty good. I wouldn't have to do too much in post here in Photoshop. Maybe just, you know, clean up some of the little bits of detail on the timber that I don't want to be distracting. And if I wanted to pull this vignette around to this corner a little bit more, I might, but I think it looks pretty good as is. And then, you know, finally you get some copy on this one if it's going to be for advertising or something like that, and go. But as the VizDev person, your job's done here. You can send it off and wait for approval, hopefully. And you're good to go. So that's pretty much this whole tutorial done. I hope that you found some useful tips for lighting and rendering your shots. Maybe try this out as well. Model yourself a very simple glass of whiskey if you like, or a glass of whatever you want, orange juice or wine or whatever. And do something similar, and let me know your results. Share a link in the comments to your renders. Just make sure that they're safe for work. I don't want to see someone's decapitated head holding a glass of whiskey or something like that, so let's keep it family friendly down there. But yeah, share your results, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask as well. And as this is a new tutorial series, if you've got any suggestions for the series, or if you'd like me to, you know, show some other things during the tutorial process, like I could have shown myself modeling this, but I wasn't sure that that's what people would be interested in. So if you do want to see me do that, I can certainly do that in future tutorials. And if there's a specific object that you want to see rendered, or how to render it, I could do that as well. So just feel free to ask in the comments. Otherwise, make sure you click like if you like this video. It helps other people find it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, because I do, at the moment, it looks like I'm doing multiple tutorials a week on Renderman and other CG software. So yeah, that's pretty much all though for today. Thank you very much for watching, and happy rendering.